All right, good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, August the 28th of 2025, 10 a.m., and we're opening this work session to discuss the new additions for the evidence storage at the Sheriff's Office, as well as some other items here in this work session here this morning. So with that, I'm going to start. Byron McDaniel, County Commissioner for District 3 and Chairman of the Board. We'll go to my left here.
Yeah, Mike Buck, County Commissioner for District 1.
Dave Fisher, Undersheriff.
Matty Bond, Facilities Manager.
Tiffany Hermes, Finance Director.
Bob Brashears, Riley Johnson, Architecture.
Sean Fletcher, County Manager.
Dal Schroeder, Commissioner, District 2.
All right, and also present we have Rhonda Brahm, who's our clerk and recorder. I can't even talk this morning. And we have Macy, admin assistant here. All right, with that, we want to kick it off. Who wants to lead? Who wants to start? Dave Fisher, all right.
In the past, we've presented some previous drawings and concepts about a new evidence facility. We are completely out of room. So this is something that's, over the years, there's so much evidence that we just don't have any more storage place to do it. We use outside storage with containers. We've used semi-trailers. We have 2 semi-trailers currently just in one case. We have a container that's just containing one case. So our evidence is just overflowing. So we have been talking about this for a couple of years, and we've come to the point with the new commissioners that we're trying to get something done here, as well as look at a possible future coroner's facility and also OEM. We're kind of bursting at the seams in the current Justice Center with no place for staffing. So we have talked with RJ and Associates. In the past, they've done a concept plan for a new justice facility in the future, and we brought them in to figure out where on our print over there, on our footprint at the Justice Center, to best put an evidence building. Keeping that in mind with a future new justice facility. We don't want to build a building and then have it be in the way of progress for the future. So that's why we brought them in. We've had soil tests done. We've had surveys completed this year. And now we're to the point of we need to make a decision on the size of this and what else we want to include in the footprint of the new building.
Okay. And then we were handed this out this morning.
Yeah.
And this is basically a...
That is, I can walk you through that.
Okay.
And like Dave said, RJA has been working with Elbert County for quite a while, for, I don't know, 5+ years, I would say. We've done master planning, and there were a couple times we thought it was getting close to getting on the ballot and didn't quite make it. And so, we keep forging ahead. And, Dave has obviously made an excellent effort at surviving through what facilities he has, and definitely the need for the evidence storage facilities is there. We probably start out with a different, whoever's controlling the slides, can you find one that's called Phase 1? We'll just kind of quickly give you the big...
Is that it?
There we go. So what we had done previously, this is a couple years old, but we keep updating. There's a piece on the left side, which is the evidence storage building. But to give you kind of the big picture of things, is Phase 1, as we see it, would be an addition primarily of sheriff's admin, and then modifications and additions to the detention center. Phase 1 doesn't include the courts, but that'll happen later in Phase 2.
So let me interrupt you. Tell me, what part is Phase 1? Is that
the orange?
So that includes the kitchen, which we know that's definitely got to be done.
Right. There's
Booking.
kitchen, there's new booking, there's modifications of some existing spaces into housing. And I think, Dave, were we talking about roughly 65 beds at that point in time? Which I think is still a little contentious, we're not, and those things change all the time, but we talked anywhere from 65 to 100 beds. We can modify the footprint of the building and get 65 beds in there. If we start looking at 100 beds, we have to start looking at expanding this to the west or to the bottom of the page. And then what the sheriff's admin does is it frees up the existing sheriff's admin for reuse as some of the court's facilities, which we can show you in the next phase. But it also gets a proper relationship of that sheriff's admin to the detention center. And right now, you don't have that connection that you need between the two of those. So as you can see, there's a significant amount of site work involved with this. We're expanding the parking. We're continuing a full-fledged roadway around the perimeter of the facility, which fire departments tend to like. And then we've got the evidence storage building on the far north with a potential future coroner to the east of that, and then a potential OEM space to the west of that as well. So one of the things that Dave mentioned is when you do build this evidence storage building, it has to be done in the context of all the other buildings that could happen in the future. So in terms of the elevation of the building, how it's sited, so that you don't affect the drainage adversely of future development. Utilities, it has to be sited. There will be some extension or some new utilities to the evidence storage building. Those need to be located. So you don't want to, in the future, in other words, tear things up. You don't want to build it now, figure out, oh, heck, we put it in the wrong place, then in phase 1 or phase 2 in the future, you have to tear it up. So you definitely don't want to do that. So you've got to think of this evidence storage in the bigger picture, in the context of the future development out there. Some other additional site things, some bulk storage that we're talking about, storage containers, like 8-foot by 40-foot storage containers with a roof built over that so you can park vehicles in there, get them out of the hail like you just had. And that takes up some of there's some exterior bulk storage on the west side of the jail now that would accommodate some of that, and there's a lot of room on the north side of the evidence storage building to do exterior type of bulk storage facility that doesn't require a building per se. And for the building for the evidence storage, we're looking at that as being what we call a pre-engineered metal building. It's a economical, simple, straightforward kind of industrial or agricultural building. You see it a lot, in places like here. Pretty common and about as inexpensive as you can get, as opposed to like from a ground up, stud walls, masonry, veneer, that kind of thing. That gets a little more expensive. So we've done that type of pre-engineered metal building for buildings like this, and it works quite well. It's expandable. It can grow like we've dotted in for both the coroner and the OEM. We could grow it to the east or grow it to the west in the future, either for those functions or for evidence storage growth if necessary.
Let me interrupt you real quick with a question. What are you anticipating price per square foot for just a shell of the pre-engineered metal building?
We think that probably in the $250, $300 range. Total cost could be up to maybe $600 a square foot. A lot of that has to do with the site work, and we don't really know what the site work is until a civil engineer gets involved.
Just for the shell?
But just the shell itself.
Okay, 250 to 300, you said maybe?
Yeah, that's in our experience. And the majority of the building is relatively simple without a lot of finishes, the actual storage part of the evidence storage building. If we go back to the evidence storage plan that we had up there before,
You want to go back?
or actually, let's, before we do that, can you flip over to Phase 2 site plan? We'll just, okay, so Phase 2, everything in orange is Phase 2. So we've got 2 new courtrooms, so it's in, when we did the master planning a few years ago, we talked to the courts, we talked to state courts, we talked to judges, DA, everybody out there, and with their input, we developed this plan. So we convert the old sheriff's admin into the DA. We have some additional space that we add on to that in orange. We have two new courtrooms that are all connected via corridors. So we have every courtroom has this very specific separation of circulation between public and inmates and secure circulation. So it maintains that, which you don't really have right now. And then the additions, potential future additions to the evidence storage building.
And one of the concepts we talked about with everyone we talked to was having about a 20-year plan. So the other thing you'll notice on the very south side of the facility is that's where we're moving parking for the general public and all the courts. We typically, like this morning, we're about out of courtroom space for parking. So people have to start parking on Ute Street because we're just out of parking.
All right, that property, I'll say on the west side, on the west side of the facility, that's just an open field, right?
It
Does that
is.
belong to us, and
Yes.
could we utilize that in the future maybe for parking if we needed to?
You could, but I think the bigger issue with that is the grade, because it would take a lot of dirt to fill that in to bring it up to grade, unless you did some kind of a lower level
Yeah,
parking.
Terraced kind of parking, but yeah, that's, you can also see there's expansion of the jail with a dashed line there beneath the jail. That also runs into that issue of grading. There's about a 15-foot drop-off between the upper and the lower levels of the site. So that is something to deal with. But yeah, you own all the way out to the road to the west of the jail.
I think my biggest issue right now today is, and I think we need to prioritize this, one, we know that kitchen has got to have some, it's got to be fixed, it's got to be repaired. We know that we've got to do something about the coroner's office, and we know that we've got to do something about the sheriff's office, the evidence storage.
Mhm.
OEM, we'll figure that out. We can, I'd like to have OEM, me personally, speaking for myself, not the other board members, I'd like to have it all there if possible, but it's going to come down to cost. And because we can't, I was not in the previous discussion, I was on the phone, but there's just no way we can come up with $5 million to do that, and I'm just going to put it on the table. I mean, there's just no way to do that. We've got to find a cheaper and better solution than that. So we can talk about all this, but we can't, it's just impossible for us to do this for $5 million. And I don't think our constituents would like that either. So with that being said, where does that leave us? What do we do? Where are we at on steps?
How do you solve this? Well, what's your upper limit, do you think, on what you can afford?
I don't know what I really want to say right now. I think that's something I need to talk to finance and talk to these other board members and so forth, but I just need to know what is the best option for the money and what is that going to look like, and then we'll take that and we'll come back and say whether we can live with that or not, I don't want to try to play hardball here, but I'm not going to just pull a number out of there and say, well, we can do $4 million or we can do
Well,
2 million,
and just just so everyone knows, I'm just the architect, I'm not the builder. So we can,
Oh, I get it, I get that, but
we-
I also don't want, I just don't want to throw a number out there without having I need more facts before I can just say, well, yeah, that we can do this, or no, we can't. I mean, it's
Sure.
just-
Well, let me make a recommendation. Let's go to the square footage, what's included in the square footage.
Yeah.
Right.
Why it's necessary, and get to the exact square footage that's necessary, not, hey, we'd like to have this amount of square footage. What do you have to get by for the next X amount of years?
Yep.
That kind of, we need to dial it down to
And when we
that,
say-
and then we can start working on costs.
Yeah,
Once we got that
exactly.
Yeah.
finalized.
When we say X amount of years, I'd like to sort of add to that if I can and say, well, let's look at this along maybe a 10-year deal. I mean, because if we say 5 years, and we're going to be,
20
maybe even 20, yeah. Say 5 or 10 years, we're going to be coming back to the public saying, hey, we got to add to get to this again. So I'd rather save money by doing it right the first time. I don't want to go crazy with it, but I want to be within a reasonable time and understanding population's growing and things are changing, and hopefully some of these cases, I know that like in homicide cases and stuff, you're going to have to keep that evidence forever. You just don't get rid of it.
that's right.
That's right. And I think that's something that the public needs to understand. There are some cases you just cannot get rid of that evidence.
One thing I asked Bob to include was this concept, so everyone knew for the future, if we could get that in the new master plan. So it's a planning piece of, well, for the future, because someday we will get to the point where we can't repair things in the jail. We've run into that with locks, because the doors are so old, the lock company is out of business. So we've had to refurbish doors and build new doors and put new locks in with current locks. And there's still some issues with locks that Maddie's working on, but I wanted to have Bob kind of go over that with you about why it's so important to put the building in the right place with utilities and future growth and things like that. So that's why we've had this initial overview of what we would like to see possibly in the future. The one thing with the evidence, and I think it's a good question that you asked there, is this the right size? And it's like, I don't really know if it's the right size or not. I would like to say, yes, we're overbuilding right now, but this should be full in 15 years. I don't know that. We are doing a lot more cases, and I can give you one example of a case we're working as we speak. It's on a cold case homicide. We have a pickup truck that's in evidence. We have a tailgate that's in our current evidence building. The truck itself, of course, is outside storage, but we are working a homicide case with Clear Creek County, the district attorney's office, CBI. We believe that the body was just dumped here, and we believe it was, the gentleman was killed in Clear Creek County. We know who our suspects are. We just can't put that all together at this time, but like Byron said, we have a pickup truck we have to keep forever. And there's a tailgate that's got blood on it that's actually in our evidence room. So things like that we have to store that's larger. That's why we're going to use the container piece out back, which it kind of serves as evidence storage, plus it also will protect vehicles, and we can put things underneath it that would get damaged by hail. Then that's kind of one of our thoughts there. But as far as the drawings here, I asked Bob to put in some options for you, and the future coroner's office is one. It says coroner on it, but it might be a DMV office in the future. It's not built out, it's just the shell, and that's optional. And the same thing with future OEM. He's just kind of placing it on there right now. Don't know that the future coroner, as far as the footprint there, is big enough or too big. I believe it makes sense to do an autopsy, not build it out, but have it wired and plumbed for autopsies in the future. There's kind of a trend of traveling forensic pathologists that will come and do an autopsy at your location. Right now, we send all of our autopsies to Larimer County. That's where the coroner is sending all of their autopsies, because they are not pathologists. So
And that requires you to take 2 deputies
use
off the street.
sometimes more.
Just for evidentiary purposes, to go up there, because there's travel time, there's autopsy time, and travel back. So I'm in complete agreement with you on that. I think the coroner's office is an equal priority to the evidence storage. It's a big deal, and I won't get into all the details of that, but that's 2 things that we need. And in the coroner's office, wherever that turns out to be, is going to have the ability or a place for them to drive in, out of the weather, shut the door, take the bodies out, put them in, where they need to be. Now, I'll say this, that we average 132 bodies a year on average over the last 5 years for the coroner's office. That's where we're at with that. Any given day, you'll have between 2 and 5 bodies stored at the coroner's office on any given day.
To answer your question about square footage, right now we use about 2,400 square feet to store our evidence. And that's not just our evidence room, but it's also in containers. One of which we're going to be able to get rid of is just one case. There's other things that I just met with the district attorney's office Tuesday about assisting us with case research so that we can eliminate as much of the evidence if it's gone beyond the statute of limitations or we don't have a suspect. Some of that stuff we're going to be able to get rid of, whether we sell it or whether we put it in a dumpster, depending on what it is. We don't want to move it.
No, what I don't want to do is confuse it a little bit with container storage and under roof physical building storage. So it'd be nice to know approximately how much
It's about
indoor square footage you have now. And then outdoor storage is going to be something separate. It's going to be storage containers. It may be under
Different
roof.
animal
A
there.
different animal, yeah, so we can talk
Well,
about that as well, but
Through working with Dave on the design of the floor plan, we're to about 6,000 square feet right now. So this orange rectangle is 50 by 120 feet. And, roughly a fourth of that, maybe a little more, there's, on the west end is a vehicular bay / training area, and that's enough room for 4 vehicles. So that, that's an in and out, you drive in and drive out. In the corridor, to mention the corridor, there is a planned potential to drive in with a hearse, back out, so you have that enclosed interior space for that.
But the 6,000 square feet is just the evidence storage.
Yeah, excluding this bulk storage.
Excluding the bulk storage, also excluding the coroner's office?
Excluding the
And
corner.
also excluding the OEM?
Just that orange
Okay,
rectangle.
6,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So currently, under roof storage you have now 600 square feet?
Well, it's all under roof or in containers
Yeah,
because,
not containers, that's a separate.
and the reason I say that is those containers contain evidence too. We did have room to put them in the regular evidence room. So you have to include those in,
You're going to move things out of those containers and put them under roof.
yes,
How long have they been in the containers, and why can't we leave that evidence in them?
some of them leak, to tell you the truth. So we don't know if some of that evidence has been compromised. And some of it could be found property too. Part of our problem in the past until 2020, I think, when we computerized our evidence area, is everything was kept on pencil and paper. So we have come in and categorized all of our evidence since that time, and it's barcoded, and it tells you where it is in the facility. We're going to continue that with any previous evidence, but it takes a lot of research and time to go through those things and figure out those cases. And like I said, Many of those cases are on a three-ring spiral binder. It was just the old-fashioned way of, here's evidence, you know, number one from case number 16-2000, and it's on somewhere over here. It's so antiquated that we have to,
No, I understand
Increase
that, but it boggles me that we'd have an evidence container that leaks. The first time I noticed it leaked, I'd call Maddie, and I'd say, Maddie, you got anybody that knows how to weld on your staff? I'd cut that piece of metal out, I'd weld a new piece in there, and you wouldn't have a leaky container.
Well-
Or buy a new container. But,
I think that happened before we got here, to tell you the truth. Most of those containers are Army surplus containers. And we have purchased 2 or 3 since we've been here, because we just didn't have any place to put evidence.
How much are those containers? Do you have any idea?
Oh, what?
How much are the containers?
You can buy a good used watertight container for probably anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000 a piece.
Do they-
So-
We need to do that as a Band-Aid to get a couple of those things in here to be able to start, as you inventory and go through, so see what you can get rid of, and just, what do you think?
Without diving in there, I could not give you an honest answer right now.
Fair enough.
We had one homicide case, 2021, I want to say, where a body was found. The clothing came in, which is about all that was left at the scene. The clothing came in, put in our evidence room, and by Monday morning, the whole building reeked because there's no ventilation system to get smells out of there. Since that, we have bought a drying unit, which you put soiled clothes in that is still wet and damp, and it dries it and keeps all the evidence inside this drying unit. We've had to fix a lot of things that were not fixable when we got here. So to answer your question about square footage, we think 6,000 is the right number. And if you put that to the $250 a square foot price that Bob had talked about, that's about $1.5 million just for the evidence,
for the shell.
for the shell.
For the show.
And there's additional
on ground.
shelving and building out that's required as well.
So I'd like to see the evidence storage building blown up or something we can talk to, because this is kind of hard to see, and these are kind of hard to see
Yeah.
as far as what are we using this, actually using the space for. You got 4 parking spaces in there, it looks like, and then what these other rooms are, I don't know.
Well, there's occasions, and we do quite a few search warrants on vehicles, and those have to be in a secured environment.
Well, I'm not saying you don't need them.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I can see it on the diagram, but that's about all I can decipher being this small. What I'd like to see is a blown-up diagram, maybe you have it here, and it says, this is what this room is, this is a bathroom, this is a
Yeah,
conference.
I would agree. Where,
I haven't seen that yet.
the shelving, is this the, everything?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I should have brought something bigger, but if you
We'll
don't,
slide this down so Dallas, I'll move down to Dallas to see this as well.
and actually, we got a couple of these here. So this piece here, this is the drive-through with, these are vehicles. Got it. 4 of those. We have a room here that's got evidence storage lockers. If an officer comes in, has evidence, they come into this preliminary processing room, they bag it, they tag it, they put in these pass-through lockers, and then they're off. There's an access to get from the vehicles to the processing area. There's a larger space here for if you have a couch, a TV, a bike, something that's large for evidence. Everything passes through from the vehicle area into a processing area that has a workstation. And, they do all the photographing and cataloging and putting it into the system. What kind of door is that? Like an overhead coiling door. I mean, it could be double doors, but in order so they don't get in the way of the traffic, it could be a lot of things. But
So, and just to explain this to those that don't know, so an officer makes an arrest out on the street, whatever the evidence may be, he comes in and he tags it, and then they put it in a secured box. Then you've got an evidence or a custodian that comes in, whoever handles evidence, and then they take that from there and they catalog it, and then they put it back here in the back in the storage.
From the secure side, the
Right.
concept being that no one but that one person is on the secure side.
Right.
And so you have that, the ability to track that evidence and be able to state that it has no
Right.
So
Sir,
then off of this, we have an armory, which Dave wanted, then we have SWAT storage off of that.
right.
And then we have a little bit of large bulk storage off of the workstation and the processing area.
Real quick, is there additional protection built into this as far as your armory? Or is that just-
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
what type of protection? would
You know, we
provide
would
for that?
probably do a CMU wall, concrete masonry unit wall, granite solid, or you can build it out of steel. You could do steel studs with a security mesh tack welded to the stud. There's a couple ways to do it.
Well, that, and we'd also want access control on there, like card reader, that kind of thing, just like we've got on some of the other doors, I would think. David, are you in agreement with that?
You have security electronic.
Yeah,
There'll be
Door
cameras.
monitors, cameras.
yeah.
Is
But
this
you
the
want
best location on site for that room?
We believe so. Reason,
Access and for,
yeah, the reason being is we have our SWAT vehicles now that stay outside. And our big MRAP starting to show signs of rust in places because it's kept outside. We can also not store our SWAT munitions in the vehicle because it's outside. And there's requirements that we are required to keep it inside if it's not inside storage with
heat
security.
exposure, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And our plan is to keep our vehicles in there if we don't have evidence vehicles in there. It keeps them out of sight and out of mind a little bit and protected.
And when you say keeping evidence vehicles in there, we're talking about keeping them in there long enough to process them, and once they're processed, they come out, and then you can,
Right.
right, so they're not gonna be like stored there for forever.
And yeah, it's usually we're waiting to get a search warrant. And that's usually 1 to 2 days that we get those done, depending on the case. Could be over the weekend. But most of the time when we do a search warrant, it's important enough we have to get it done pretty quick. So, and the other thing about that is we don't really have an area we can do defensive tactics training, which is rolling around on mats and that kind of thing. So this is kind of a multifunctional bay that we would use to do training in there as well. We have a firearms training system that uses a projector onto a wall, and we have to set that up every time we want to use it. It's very time consuming, so we want to mount that in there permanently. So it's kind of a multi-function garage, for lack of a better term.
it's not oversized, because if it's 50 feet wide, the building, that's 2 trucks, that's it, side by
Yeah.
side. You know, you don't have a lot of extra room, so it's not, maybe one RV and
Yeah.
2 vehicles,
We-
something like that, so it's.
We talked about making it 3 bays, but in interest of cost saving, we've taken that down to 2.
So I'd like to make a recommendation here where you've got it just listed as evidence storage. I think that needs to be changed to exactly what this is. It needs to, because to the general public, it sees that, who doesn't understand it. Yeah, so evidence, training, processing, whatever you want to do, but I would outline exactly what it is so there's no confusion to the general public about, my gosh, we just spent $3 million on just a storage unit, we could buy, yeah. Right, so.
Storage containers and build them up.
And quite frankly, when we had our phone call and they said, well, it's going to be $5 million for this evidence storage, I'm like, what? It's like, then I think I was talking to Sean, and I was about to stroke over that because what do you mean evidence storage is the building's gonna cost $5 million? I could buy a Taj Mahal here in Elbert County for that, a house, and gut it and make storage out of it, so.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, let's keep moving.
That was this room
So
here.
that was this is SWAT. Both of these are about 150 square feet apiece, roughly 10 by 15. This is the workstation, and this is an area for bulk storage, sort of a transitional space before it moves out to someplace else where the rest of the bulk storage is. And we've got two rooms of 100 square feet and 150 of, was the 100 square feet valuables?
Yes.
And then guns?
Valuable, we would keep valuables such as, if we recovered a bunch of jewelry, for instance, we would have a safe in that room, which would have extra protection as well as cash. Sometimes we get a large, I've done this personally where we got $300,000 in cash from a drug situation, and you just can't put that in a paper bag and put it on a shelf. So we have a special room just for those high-value incidents. The other thing that typically goes missing in evidence cases, and it just happened in Castilla County, is firearms. So we keep firearms in a special room as well.
Let me ask a real quick question. In regards to that, would it make sense to make the armory a little bit larger and so you don't have to have two reinforced rooms?
The thing about that, you don't want to mix evidence and,
Right.
county property.
Armory isn't evidential.
Well, maybe a door in between or something. Okay, we got one reinforced room, and then we got another one. I was just wondering if there's any way to combine proximity, and maybe have some type of steel door between the two of them, and then you save a little bit of money.
There certainly is probably the way to do that.
Yeah, if we had this was the armory, you take these two and you put them here, and you have this one box, Yeah, there's probably more economical ways to do it, because both of these rooms have to be secure. The wall's secure, there's a secure ceiling, so you don't have to necessarily take the wall all the way.
Yeah, because you might be able to just have a secure door.
The only thing that concerns me is you get past this point, you've got to have a special clearance to get back there to be able to handle anything. You can't just get in, no deputy can just come in. No deputy can just walk into the evidence area at any point in time. It
Nope.
is a very restricted deal. So if they're going to be in the armory, there's got to be no access to get to where they're.
I think a deputy gets to the armory, but to get to these, you have to be.
Yeah, our evidence technician and one other
My mic
person
keeps
is the only
cutting off
ones
for
that
some
have
reason.
access. So no one else can just walk in and go through the evidence.
Okay.
So then, in the overall floor plan, then this piece is the actual storage, and that's either shelving, thick shelving, high-density storage that moves, which is kind of expensive, but you can get a lot more,
You get about 3 times the storage in there.
get a lot more lineal feet of storage in any given.
How many square feet is that area?
Well, let's see, what do you think here? That's maybe a third of the length. That's about 2,000 square feet. It's 120 feet long. Oh, I'm sorry. It's 120 feet long, so this must be about
40.
40 times 50, 2,000. So the actual storage is about 1/3 of that, 6,000 square feet.
What kind of storage space do we have now there that's full? Do we know, just out of curiosity?
I think I calculated 2,400. That includes the containers.
So would you keep what you have in storage there now, or would you transfer all that over to the?
We would transfer it all to one place. But again, we're going to go through every case that we have and find out how much of that we can get rid of.
So I guess my question is, if we're going to transfer A to B, is B going to be big enough to handle that, plus additional storage as we go forward in years to come? Do you think, or let's just say 10 years from now, 20 years?
I'm just giving you a,
Just guessing, I
a
know
guess,
that.
so I
It depends
couldn't-
upon crime, I get it.
I think the numbers that we have put down there right now is the right number.
So based on what I saw when I was visiting, it looked like maybe 500 or 600 feet indoors, maybe, right? Now you're gonna go to 2,000, so you're roughly 4 times the amount of storage.
Well-
Indoor storage, irrespective of the containers,
Sounds about right.
you know. So it's
So
not,
you-
it's not, I thinking, oh, this is way overbuilt, it's not that overbuilt.
Yeah, that was my first
You
impression.
have, the vehicles in here make sense to me. The storage capacity for the actual evidence makes more sense to me than just saying, hey, it's 6,000 square feet.
Yeah, if you think 6,000 square feet of storage, then you'd say, yeah, you don't need that much.
That's what I said. Yeah. I was saying that for.
That's exactly what I've been saying too, so I'm just,
So there's
So
more
we
to this
move-
than just.
Yeah, this-
we
the-
move
this-
everything over here. Once we get everything over here and in its proper place, how much space do you think we're going to have left available? I guess would be just,
1,500 square feet,
yeah.
potentially.
Not if everything's coming in and out of the storage unit. If this is 2,000 square feet of storage, and we're currently using 2,400, that's a 400.
Yeah, I was trying to keep the stuff in
What-
storage.
It just depends on how much you can get rid
Some of
of.
that 2,400 is bulk storage in containers, right?
Yeah,
So we'll need to, you're right, Dallas, so then we'll need to keep,
And that would be
So-
going,
what's the reason we have to move the storage containers evidence indoors
We
other
don't.
than a
and
leaky roof?
Let me address that real quick. We have 2 semi-trailers that are full of ballast. Okay, each one of those is a 40-foot container that's 8 foot wide, so 320 square feet. I'm including those right now in the figures, but we're going to get rid of all of those ballasts. They're no longer an evidentiary item. So there's 640 feet of the 2,400 roughly that we have now that's going to go away. So that's kind of it on those others. I can't even tell you what's in the other containers because I haven't looked in them. Only the evidence custodian knows. There was one case that's in a 10 by 10 container. That was one retail theft case that still has not been resolved. And there's all kinds of stolen items that were in there, but there's still a suspect outstanding on it that's been identified.
so the bulk storage, the stuff that does not need to be in climate-controlled areas, and you got them in these containers out there that are starting to leak and stuff, wouldn't we?
There's just 1 or 2 that were leaking.
But shouldn't we just go ahead and replace those 2, like, soon, before evidence gets destroyed? Mold or things like that start to happen? Shouldn't we replace those 2 now and just,
at $4,000 apiece, yeah.
Or to
and,
repair them?
Yeah. Or, in this configuration, the talk previously had been, put an inexpensive wood truss asphalt shingle roof over this. It protects the containers and it provides a space in the middle to park some vehicles in and get them out of the hail. So it's kind of doing double duty in this configuration. So that's
So this would be 1 container, 2, 3, that would be.
3 containers, yeah.
Those are 340 footers. That's what we're,
and with the plan, to finish up by saying, if we buy those, you've got evidence in those that do not have to be climate controlled, so we would never transfer that stuff into here to take up this space, right?
correct.
Right, okay, just want
So,
to be sure
and
I was clear.
additional things like, if there's
Bicycles or,
couches,
Yeah,
I mean, a
it's-
lot of stuff can be evidence. Rolls of rug, which you
Right.
probably won't want to put in the regular facility. It doesn't need to be climate controlled on those. So some of those larger bulk items, our plan was to put it in those containers.
got it.
And you can fit 4 if you squeeze them in fairly tight. You can fit 4 vehicles in this U-shaped thing. So,
So then, moving on, what are the balance of those?
okay. There's going to be some space required for mechanical equipment, electrical, plumbing, a water entry, that kind of stuff. So we've got that here. There's going to be some kind of separate IT room of some sort. We've got that here. A toilet room, a small office, and then a public entry. Sometimes the public comes in and wants to view the evidence. And I think, Dave, we've talked about it several ways of having a separate room that they could come in and handle the evidence, or a room where the evidence is just set there, there's a window, and they can see
They
the
can look at
evidence
it.
instead of handling the evidence, which,
Because you don't want to bring them back in the processing area.
so that's, it's those kind of service type functions in that little.
So you were talking about
10-foot
putting
strip.
vehicles under here. If you put those storages up and you built that cover over it like you was talking about, couldn't you put that, like the SWAT truck and things under there? That would make it,
You could, we'd like to keep, especially the MRAP, keep it inside, climate controlled.
right?
Because we could then store our tear gas and all those other things inside
Yeah,
the vehicle.
yeah, just forget my question. I didn't even think about it.
We have plenty of vehicles. Our backup vehicles and our spare vehicles could stay in there out of the hail.
Okay.
That's kind of the thinking on those, having those covered.
I'm not trying to overthink it. I just want to get the best bang for our buck here. We are talking about a lot of money, so we want to be able to justify every inch of it. So is there anything here that we've talked about that we have or have not talked about that we should be discussing on this? Is there anything left out that we should be considering?
I know there's some discussion of animal control. We don't have any kennels at this time. And I kind of thought, we try to make these as multifunctional as possible, so that's why we've included, a training function, because we have to go use a building over at the Ag Building or one of those and haul the mats over there and everything else, so there's really no place to train on some of that stuff. So that's why we tried to make this kind of a multifunctional thing, not just evidence, but things we could use otherwise. If we do get into the animal control business, we're going to probably have to find a place or contract with some place to keep found pets. So, I mean, you could put those somewhere back there by the bulk storage, I would think.
I think it would be cheaper if we contracted somewhere or somebody for animal control. And as far as animal control goes, I'm certainly in favor of that. We've got to move in that direction. As many calls that you get and we all get about animal control, we've got to have somebody to be able to do that. I don't know that we want to get into the actual keeping of animals and having somebody there around the clock. I think it would be cheaper on us to contract with somebody in like a no-kill shelter somewhere that we could do. So that's a whole nother discussion that we can get off in. It'll take some time. I do want to talk just a little bit about the coroner's office. They would need somewhere to store bodies. Not only that, but they're going to need a place to be able to sit down with families. They're going to need a place that they can go in and shower themselves and get cleaned up from exposures of body fluids, things like that. So I just want to keep that in mind as we start talking about the coroner's office.
Yeah. And we have come up with a floor plan for this a couple years ago that we could show you. We just didn't think that would be getting into any.
Yeah, and I knew that. I just wanted to put that out before I forgot about it. I will say this makes sense to me now, because I was like, what? Just a container? I mean, it's like, what? There's just no way that we can pay that kind of money for that.
Yeah.
And it's still a lot of money, and I still don't know how we would pay for it. That's something that we as commissioners and finance and all can discuss, but this makes sense to me now. and I'm not speaking for the other commissioners, but this, for me, I understand this, and I understand the holding area and that kind of thing. So what we haven't discussed is the cost that you're talking about per square foot. That does not include CCTV, access control, so now we're talking about additional monies, and that's sort of my wheelhouse too, so I understand that, so.
Doesn't include any site work, any paving, all that.
Yeah, so we've got, we got the security aspect of that thing that we've got to focus on too, so that's going to be an additional cost. Right, so I'd like to see, and I think that maybe this is what Commissioner Buck was asking, but I see these lines, and yeah, this is evidence storage, but is there a way to get a better, like a more, like a 3D drawing showing exactly what this would exactly look like, so we know?
Easily.
Okay.
Easily.
Yeah.
It's not exactly hitting a button, but yeah.
Well, I get that.
When we draw this, it's kind of inherently three-dimensional. It's just a matter of assigning heights. And yeah, we could easily do that.
Speaking of easily, how easily would it be to add on if at some point we ever did want to add a future corner piece to it or an OEM component to it?
Should be very easy. As long as it's got the same configuration, it'd be nice to have the same manufacturer of the steel metal.
Right.
If it's the same width, then the ridge line can continue, and you just seal up the joint between the two buildings, and you're off and running. It's not hard.
Well, it would just have to be, that's just the way it's just, I mean, for cost savings and that, right? I mean, it would just.
Yeah. I mean, there's some subtle structural, the column at the corner would have to be designed to take the weight of some future load off of it, that kind of thing.
So structurally, when they build these pre-engineered buildings, what are they made out of? Is it red iron? What's the structure?
It's, usually in section, it's a tapered steel column and just a slight pitch, and sometimes it's like a red iron, tapered steel beam for the roof. Sometimes it's truss joists, the configuration, truss joists. And then there's continuous. They're usually like a Z shape. They call it a purlin that's attached to the face of these. These columns are about every 20 to 30 feet or so. There's for something this size, there's usually one in the middle. You put these purlins on the outside. You attach the metal decking for the exterior finish. You've got metal decking for the roof. Put a gutter on it. You have a slab on grade here that this all sits on.
Yeah.
And these panels come insulated. You can get a kind of a insulation. It's got a plastic cover on it. If you've been in these buildings, they've got kind of this billowing kind of shape of the insulation that's tucked in there. So it's insulated. It's not secure. So if you have an armory or some other secure room against this wall, you come in against these purlins and you put either a security mesh, tack weld it to that. If you want to prevent someone from like driving a truck through the side of the building, you can put in a concrete block wall. Just a matter of how secure.
So let me ask you one more question. Based on that type of construction, and you're not the builder, you said you were the architect, where are you getting your figures?
Past projects. We just wrapped up, we did a sheriff's administration building for Otero County down in San Luis, and that was roughly similar size, but it was all built out with offices. It had a break room, had some locker rooms. That was about $650, $700 a square foot.
At build-out?
At build-out, yeah.
So, but our cost is just for the structure, not at build-out, for $600 a square foot.
No, if we're just talking the metal building.
250, I think it was. Yeah, you're right.
250 to 300. So the building itself is half or even a little less than the total cost. But I think there's a few, like, how much fencing do you want out here? How secure do you want this building to be? You don't want someone just to walk up to it. So my concern is that there are these hidden site costs that we're not quite sure. It is located, we do have a survey, it's located on the site where from front to back, it's relatively level. There's a few changes in between, but, so the overall site grading shouldn't be too terrible. But, there is paving, and maybe there's some walks,
Can
you've got to get utilities to this, that kind of.
Can Monty's group do any of that site work?
Question for him.
Okay. It's worth asking.
You know, where we save money, we're gonna have to do it.
So when we look at this, this master plan, total project cost, that 3.6 million evidence building, how much work additionally will need to be done after the 3.6 million? I think that's what we're trying to clarify.
Okay, well, what we typically see is you've got hard costs and soft costs. So the hard costs are the construction costs, that's the 600. We typically see soft costs, which some of them you've already paid for, surveying, soils testing, some materials testing during construction to make sure that the contractor's, building it right. Architect fees, engineers fees. If there's any furnishings that you have to provide, IT is typically owner handled. So we normally see another, and we advise, and a contingency as well, but we advise clients to add 20% to that $600 a square foot. So that would bring that to 720. And that would typically cover all of the additional cost. And then again, the contingency is a big, depending on how fast construction costs are escalating and depending on when this happens. Sometimes we priced this, like this master plan 2 or 3 years ago, and it's probably 30% higher now. This year, we see construction costs probably in the 5 to 10% increase, which is pretty good compared to what it's been the past 3 years or so. But yeah, $600 construction cost, $120 soft cost, for a total of $720. So that's more like 4.3, 4.4 on 6,000 square feet.
That's give or take based on when the project actually begins.
Yeah.
So it could actually go back up to 4.5 to 5 million, roughly, but that's turnkey, right? Ready to go at the end?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, they just need to know that because we're going through budget season now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we just need to know what we actually would need to.
Kind of a
be looking
worst
at.
case scenario.
Yes, worst case scenario,
Yeah,
or highest cost,
highest cost, yeah.
not worst case, because
It's still the
we
greatest
certainly
potential.
want something that's going to be
Yeah.
best case scenario.
Yeah, it's all best.
And then, if you could talk a little more about that kitchen remodel, how much that would cost? Because I've seen the kitchen right now in the jail. I'm just kind of curious, what is the estimated cost on that?
Boy, that's a good question. It's been so long since we've looked at that. Kitchen, as you can imagine, kitchens are expensive. The kitchen equipment's expensive, the utilities are expensive, and that's all within the secure perimeter of the jail. If I had to guess, let me just, this is little, 50 by, we're adding, I'd say about 2,500 square feet. That kitchen could certainly be $1,000 a square foot for construction. When you include, is all the existing equipment probably past its useful life? Or hence the reason for a new kitchen. At $1,000 a square foot, that's 2.5 million, plus 20% would be another 500,000, so that's roughly a $3 million project.
Why would it need to be 2,500 square feet? just for the kitchen. Any particular reason? You have it built in at 2,500 square feet?
You know, that's let me back up. That's a good point. I think within this chunk, we had more than just the kitchen. We have laundry, we probably have general storage, we have electrical and IT and mechanical. I think that was, if we are looking at just taking the existing kitchen, gutting it, probably expanding it, it might actually be half that. So
The other thing, when we did this concept initially, we were looking at a plan to, do we bring food in when we shut down and remodel the current kitchen? And then Bob, after the initial concept was done, came back and said, I think we should probably just build a new kitchen. That way we can keep the current kitchen going, because we still have, 80 to 100 meals to feed every day.
yeah, there are phasing issues with that.
And then do you bring the food in? Do you send the prisoners to another jail? There's all kinds of things that, when you build a new kitchen, not only do you modernize, but there was other things. There was laundry in there. I think there was some trustee quarters. I can't quite remember everything.
Yeah, and we did take a portion of the old kitchen, and that became part of new housing as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think we ever looked specifically at just the kitchen, but, yeah, Mike, that was a good point, that this whole thing is not kitchen.
And again, I don't want to really confuse the issue, because we want to talk about evidence and OEM and corner, but I just wanted you guys to know, I think Dallas might have remembered some of those previous discussions, but you guys haven't had the opportunity to see the build-out plan and what it was requested, but now 3 years ago, based on a 20-year plan at that time. And now we're out of parking for court. So,
Just to go back to the kitchen real quick, and I don't mean to harp on it, but, so in one of the diagrams, it shows that exact footprint as existing building here. And then on here, the exact same footprint is new construction. Let me see here.
Might have some misplaced colors.
I think what you're looking at there is the different phases, because we have to do a phase one, which is, at that time, the new booking, new sheriff admin, and new kitchen. And then the next phase is new courtrooms and new DA's offices and everything else.
Yeah, you're right, one says phase one says phase two.
Yeah, but, yeah, Mike, it could certainly be clear, the phase one addition is all of this. So the existing building is here.
Yeah, so what I was looking for on my diagram here was where the existing kitchen is now.
It's buried back in this area back here, and once it's gutted, the idea was you build a new kitchen, you keep the existing kitchen operational. Then once this is operational, you gut the old kitchen, and then you convert that into some.
I don't think we have a drawing of the current one in there.
So there's a.
But the existing kitchen would become additional housing for prisoners.
Correct.
Would you want to do additional housing, Dave, or would you want to do something, because you've got that medical nursing area there that's, quite frankly, I think is a little dangerous when she has to sit there directly across from somebody, but
Yep.
it's a safety point in my mind.
It was a closet that was converted into a nurse's office.
It
So-
is not much bigger than this table. I mean, you walk in, she sits right
It's-
there, and there's no
It's half this
safeguard.
table.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that. That's terrible.
yeah.
That's-
It's a safety concern.
That's a liability issue.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big exposure. So I'm just wondering if maybe you would use that area for, I'm throwing it out there either way, but we got to find something. We've got to do something about that, because there is a big liability right there. hate to clog up the wheel, but it's just something to think about.
I don't have any more questions at this time.
I don't either. Dallas, do you have any, sir? Sean?
No, I appreciate you coming in and explaining that evidence room. And actually, all the things that will be added to it, so they have a better idea of what the county is getting for the investment.
And it's certainly easy, we can do a little redesign of the floor plan based on our discussion, extrude it up, give you a three-dimensional image so you can see how things are looking. If that would probably be helpful to just kind of get an understanding of the spaces.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I
And
think
that's quick for us to do, it's not a big deal.
and I think as we get a little closer in here, I think there'll probably be a lot of input from citizens and so forth, and we're going to need to be able to show
Yeah,
what we're,
Yeah.
exactly what we're talking about here, so they understand too. It's going to be important. So Dave, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this, sir?
No, I understand your concerns, and I wish I had a better information about cost and where we should be in 20 years. I would hate to see us get 5 years down the road and we're out of space. That's kind of why we plug some of the containers in for the less, the bulkier items that we don't need to put into evidence, and that we're going to be spending a lot of time getting rid of everything we possibly can before we move it to the new facility. So as best we can keep up with those cases. There's a lot of research involved to get rid of one case. I mean, we're going to ask the district attorney's office if we can get rid of such and such a case, but we also have to have the detectives look into that. So it's a research nightmare. And then recategorizing everything that has not been in the computerized system is going to take time as well.
Do you think the district attorney's office would commit or dedicate somebody to help the sheriff's office to go through that stuff if we ask them?
I would say no. I don't think
Okay.
they have a dedicated evidence person, because they, in the 23rd, they have the same problem with Douglas County and Lincoln
Everybody, yeah.
County. So evidence, and I've done this before in my previous agency, it's not been categorized and not been computerized, and you still have to keep it. There is a lot of legwork that has to go into each case to properly categorize it and figure out where you're going to put it in the evidence facility, on which shelf and which row, and it's a pretty big deal.
Hey, Dave, what are you doing for an armory now? Where is that kept, and how secure is that, if you feel comfortable with it? And then the valuables as well. If you had cash or you had jewelry, like we talked about, where is that kept now in your building?
Right now, it's kept on various shelves in various places in the evidence room. My previous facility, we had specialized areas for cash and jewelry and those kind of things, which we actually had a big gun safe. Even though it was secured with cameras and motion detectors and things like that, we still put it under a lock and key. Number one, if it's cash and the place catches on fire, you don't want to lose the cash. So we put that kind of stuff in a fireproof safe. Firearms were another thing, whether it's an evidence or a found firearm or something like that. Castilla County just went through a huge problem with a homicide case in which the gun was there in evidence, and then the gun disappeared in evidence. So that's like 2 weeks ago. You can look that up on online, but they've had a huge issue with not being able to find evidence.
But you feel comfortable with what you have now as an armory?
Yes, to answer your question, our current armory is just another big closet. We keep our ammunition in there. We keep unissued firearms in there. So it's out of room. There's just no place to put anything else in there. You can come over and I'll give you a.
How many
quick-
square feet is that? Just curious.
It's probably a 10 by 12 room.
Okay. Now, and then going forward, you said you can get us some schematics and some better drawing, a little bit, because what I'd like to see is the evidence building, as we're calling it now, but a blown-up picture of that so we can see what room, have them labeled, and kind of a, you know,
Yeah.
something a little bit,
Yeah, we do that all the
We
time.
can look at.
Yeah, definitely.
okay.
I don't know, Dave or Tiffany, are you aware of any grants that are available for Justice Center expansion and that sort of thing?
I'm not aware of any. Usually the federal grants that have those come out in April-ish. So we'll see if there's anything coming on that. We're also going to be looking for body cameras and a TASER grant to try to pay for some of those because that contract is coming up.
And I'll say I had a conversation with Congress Bobert, and she and her office are going to be helping us and look for some grants to see what's available. Maybe they know something that we don't, so anything that we can get, we certainly would take. So,
Yep, we have one grant person, and she gets emails every day about any upcoming grants. There's just not been any in the state of Colorado, and I don't foresee any coming with the budget issues they have. So it will come federally if we get anything. And we've looked for the last couple of years on grants for public safety buildings and things like that, and there's not been any.
yeah, I think though, if anybody in DC can get something going, I think she can do it. I believe we can. So if you run across something, let me know, and in the meantime, I've got her office looking as well. See where
Okay.
we're at, and I'll keep you in the loop. All right, I don't have anything else, or I guess we can conclude this meeting at this time, so.
One more quick question. Who would our point person be if I had a question? Let's say I'm looking at the drawings, I have a question on it. Who would you recommend I call?
Probably call me, and then I may put you in touch with Bob or Maddie.
Okay.
Either Maddie and or.
Okay, just want to check.
All right, well, if that's it, thank y'all for
Do you
being
want to
here.
keep these hard copies? Or it can be nice to have this around? Don't hold me
You
to
know,
that sketch necessarily.
I wouldn't mind having them, but I think all three of us would probably like a copy once you get it blown up a little better and showing
Yeah.
with the more of a 3D. Are you good?
3D.
The guys good with that?
Okay.
That way, because I know we'll all want to put our little notes and things on them, and
Yeah,
that would be good if we could do that.
okay.
Let's make one for the county manager too.
Yeah, definitely for sure.
I think we could certainly leave those hard copies with Matty to keep, so
Yeah.
he can keep them on file somewhere. Absolutely. Because the public may want to see them as well.
Just, it's a work in progress, so it's, nothing's final.
I'm sure we'll be getting a request by noon today, so. All right, thank y'all for being here, and we will conclude this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thanks for your time.
Thank you.